Good morning to everyone. Welcome to our live IBS Q A and special event. I am so happy that you are all here. If everybody who is joining in wants to say hi and tell us where you're watching from and let us know your first names, that way our tech team and all the IT people surrounding me that you can't see can make sure everyone is able to post questions and can hear me properly. And we're going to just start right in with our first question if everybody is ready. We had one come early today and someone was asking, how do I mix my tummy fiber and get it to dissolve completely? I usually add it in a glass with a little bit of water, but sometimes there's some clumps left. What do I do about that? Am I doing something wrong? Well, you're not doing anything wrong at all. It's not your fault. The tummy fiber is just granulated to dissolve fastest and easiest in room temperature water. It'll still dissolve in hot water or cold water. It's just going to take longer. If you're in a rush and you're dissolving and there's some clumps left, it's fine to just drink it like that. It'll still work. It won't hurt anything. It's really a matter of time. If you want to add it to something hot or cold or it's not fully dissolved, just walk away for a few minutes, come back, stir it up again. It should totally disappear. Or the easiest way, actually, I think to circumvent this entirely is add your fiber to moist food. I just add mine to breakfast and dinner every day. Any kind of food that's got a little moisture in it, from applesauce to casseroles to guacamole to just anything at all that's a little wet, it'll disappear right into and the temperature won't matter as much. So use it whatever way is easiest for you. It'll work regardless. Oh, we're getting more people joining in. I'd like to welcome the newcomers. Please let us know your name and where you're watching us from. Make sure you can hear me okay. Let us know if you're having any problems. The next question we got coming in. Oh, let's see. Sheila, oh my gosh, more people are coming in. Sheila joined us. Nancy joined us. Hi guys. Let's see. Oh, Nancy, I use a small spice bottle to shake up my tummy fiber with the water or tea and it dissolves if there's enough liquid. That's a good way to do it too. A lot of times if people are on the go, and this comes up a lot with the college kids or people who are maybe in a car or a truck all day for their jobs, if they add their entire daily dose of the tummy fiber to a bottle of water, make sure there's enough room in the bottle to add your fiber and then shake it up so you have enough headroom. Shake it up really, really well. If it's not totally dissolved, just let it sit for a bit and shake it up some more. Then you can just drink the water throughout the day and get your full daily dose of the tummy fiber throughout the day. That's a really good way to keep your gut filled with the tummy fiber 24/7, and that's your goal, because remember, soluble fiber only works when it's physically in your gut. So yeah, adding it to a container, shaking it up in advance, and then having it ready for you, that's a great way to use it. Really helpful for people on the go, people who can't get home during the day, people who aren't at a desk where they have access to things like a little kitchen. So make it work for you, make it work with your life. That's a really important factor with IBS. Oh my goodness, we have Carol joining us and Vicki from Michigan. Hello, Vicki from Michigan. And let us know questions, sign in to let me know if you can't hear me okay. We are thrilled to have you. Let's see, I suspect we're getting a lot of questions about holidays and travel today, so let me know if that's something of interest. I know we got Christmas coming up and the New Year's. A lot of people leaving town or going away from their home to eat, and that can be a big concern. Let's see. Nancy is asking how to reintroduce oil-based supplements like fish oil or vitamin D capsules, your fat-based vitamins. Okay. There's usually such a small amount in oil of things like a vitamin D capsule or vitamin E capsule. As long as you take those with food, you should be fine. Something like the fish oil capsules, those can be a little hard on people. You really probably want to look for enteric coated fish oil capsules so they don't break down in your stomach. They pass through and dissolve in your intestines. If you get fish oil dissolving right in your stomach, you might get some really awful fishy burps and some heartburn. It can be really unpleasant and put you off fish oil for the rest of your life. So look for an enteric coated version. See if the directions say take that on an empty stomach, how far in advance. You want to make sure it sails through your stomach in advance. There might be some fish oil varieties where they really want you to take them with meals or food instead. So follow directions on those. They tend to be larger and have more oil in them. In general, there's not typically enough fat in a little oil-based pill for it to set off IBS. But a good rule, if you can, is always take them with food. That can't hurt. Pretty much in general for just about all medications, supplements, vitamins, minerals, vast majority of them, they want you to take them with food, and that's usually a pretty good rule to keep them from causing any kind of gut upset. So unless something specifically says you have to take it on an empty stomach, try taking it right with or after meals. Oh, let's see. Vicky is asking, if you're eating away from home and you don't know what will be served, how much extra tummy fiber is good to take before the meal? A lot of shades of gray there. That might depend on your dose, how long you've been using it, what you've worked up to. If you are on a lower end of the dose range, if you're kind of new to the tummy fiber and still working up your dose to establish what your gut needs, I would probably not add an extra dose. I would just make sure that you take one of your daily doses right before that meal. If you are worked up to an established dose, a higher end of the dose range, you could maybe add half of one of your normal doses as an extra right before you eat. Something that might be even easier for you if you're traveling in somebody else's house and you need to kind of take something right before you eat and you're not in your own kitchen and space. It might be more practical to use something like a tummy tamer, the peppermint oil capsule. Those are portable and easy to carry with you, easy to take before you eat. You do want to make sure you take that on an empty stomach, but those are kind of designed to prevent problems like pain, spasms, cramps, bloating, gas at the time, whereas the tummy fiber is more of a process of getting enough soluble fiber in your gut 24/7. So the tummy fiber won't work as well on a one-off taken right before a meal. It can't hurt, but you might get better results from a one-off like that using something like the tummy tamers before a meal where you're feeling a little unsafe. I do that every single time I ever eat in a restaurant. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a restaurant meal without taking a tummy tamer before I ate it. It's just a safety measure, and if I'm away from home, I don't know what's in the food, I want to get all the safety measures that I can. So that's a good one. Let's see. Sheila is asking a question. Hello, Sheila. I'm both IBS C and D. My A1C is rising, and then they're telling to reduce carbs. Okay, your beloved substance that calms my gut. They're asking you to reduce carbs. I would ask for specifics on this. You might actually want your doc to refer you to a registered dietitian to get a lot of clarity, because that's kind of a vague statement. They want you to reduce carbs. What does that mean? I don't think they want you to reduce all your fresh fruits and vegetables. Those are carbs. So are they telling you really to reduce like refined sugar and processed foods? Are they really telling you that you can't eat rice and pasta and potatoes and bananas? Those are good soluble fiber staples. Odds are they probably want you to take out things like the high glycemic level foods, the refined carbs, junk foods, certainly sugar, refined sugars. But odds are also they want you to keep soluble fiber in play. So I would get as much more information and details from your doc and a dietitian about this as possible. Make sure they distinguish carbohydrates from soluble fiber. You can separate them if you use a soluble fiber supplement. Sometimes people in some medical situations can't get enough soluble fiber from the foods they eat. If that's the situation, you can totally adjunct that with something like the tummy fiber, so you can make up the soluble fiber that your gut needs while decreasing the carbohydrate intake. I'd still be very careful with things like your insoluble fiber and certainly your fats. You don't want to start leaning heavily towards a high fat, high protein diet without soluble fiber, because that's going to mess up your gut. So get more information. Let me know details. If you want to email, I'll try to help you if I have more info on that one. And let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh, I guess my tech people are asking me to let people, if you're having trouble seeing the chat on the right-hand side of the screen, you can change where it says top chat to live chat, and that will let you see more comments. So you might want to change your view for that and see more of the action that's going on behind the scenes here. Okay, we've got a question from Jewel coming in. Hello, Jewel. Does anyone else have skin issues when they are having an IBS week? Well, that could be a big red flag. IBS is defined as a brain gut disorder, so it's a dysfunction. It's not a disease. There's nothing inflammatory. There's nothing infectious. It's not an autoimmune disorder. It shouldn't be tied to any kind of skin or joint issues. So if you are noticing that your gut is going south and at the same time you have skin issues or joint issues, swelling, hives, a rash, I would check in with your doctor about that. There are other gut disorders that do tie into your skin and joints. Things like celiac, which is an autoimmune disorder that causes gluten intolerance, that can actually show up on your skin and not your gut at all for some people. You want to make sure they rule that out with a blood test to see if you have gluten intolerance. You'd also want to make sure they check you for inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. Those can also affect parts of the body outside the gut, particularly Crohn's, and can cause skin and joint issues. So you might want to check in with the doc if you really see a consistent tie-in between your gut and skin and joints, and make sure they've ruled out any of the red flag issues and that you don't really have another disorder going on there. Okay, and then Carol has joined us. Hello, Carol. Carol says she takes Synthroid, which is a thyroid medication, and she's read that fiber shouldn't be taken close to Synthroid. Do you know how long I should wait? I would double check with your pharmacist. Always ask your pharmacist about medication rules. They've got the best info hands down. But a general rule is if you can't take the medication with food, which is probably why they are excluding it with fiber, think of your fiber as food. You want to take a medication or separate your foods 1 hour before, 2 hours after you eat. So if you had your Synthroid first thing in the morning and then you wait an hour, you should be good to have the fiber. If you are good to eat foods at that point in time, you're certainly good to have the fiber, and you can mix the fiber right into foods. So you could do the Synthroid last thing at night before bed on an empty stomach, and then have your fiber with dinner earlier and in the morning. Or you could have your Synthroid first thing in the morning and then wait that hour, have your fiber with breakfast and dinner. It's a pretty easy way to do it usually. Let's see. And then we've got another question coming in from Vicky. Is there an alternative to the peppermint oil capsules? I get acid reflux when I try those. Yeah, that's a frustration with peppermint for a lot of people, unfortunately. Peppermint is a fantastic antispasmodic. It's a smooth muscle relaxant. It's a painkiller. But your entire gut is smooth muscle, all the way from your mouth all the way down to the anus. It's all one long muscular tube. So anything that's like peppermint, that's a powerful muscle relaxant and antispasmodic, fabulous for IBS because it relaxes the lower gut, the colon, the bowel. It stops those horrible spasms that cause the cramping and the pain. So that's a big bonus for IBS. But if you are prone to upper GI issues like heartburn or reflux, peppermint can relax your upper GI as well. And if it does that and it relaxes the esophageal sphincter, then you can get acid reflux from your stomach up into your esophagus and feel like you have heartburn. And you don't want that. So some people have no peppermint tolerance. Some people can do peppermint tea, but they can't do peppermint oil capsules, which are stronger. Some people can do the capsules because they're enteric coated and they don't dissolve till they reach their intestines, but they can't do the tea or peppermint right in the stomach. There's probably going to be some trial and error there if you're not sure how or to what degree you can tolerate peppermint. And some people can't tolerate it at all, no matter what. They can't even have peppermint toothpaste or candies. It just gives them heartburn or reflux. If you're one of those people, that is okay. Your safety net's going to be fennel. Not in a pill form, unfortunately, but you can use fennel tea. That's still going to be an antispasmodic. It's still going to be a painkiller. I think it's actually a better fit for bloating and gas than the peppermint. It's really a direct hit for that. And you would just use fennel tea however, whenever you want. Very flexible. You could use it before a meal as a preventative, the way you were using the peppermint oil capsules. It's more flexible than the caps, so you can use it on a full stomach or an empty stomach, and there's no restrictions on how often you drink it. So if you are having spasms, cramps, bloating, gas, and you can't do peppermint at all, you want to go right to your fennel tea as a safety net. And the key for that is to brew it as strong as you possibly can. It really should brew dark brown. The stronger you can brew it, the more effective it will be. So rely on your fennel if you can't do peppermint. I do really well with peppermint, so I'm going to hold peppermint tea right now. Oh, Vicky says she loves fennel tea. Drink every day. Okay, great, good, Vicky. Just rely on your fennel tea. You're just going to be a person who has to use more of it because you can't add in the peppermint. That's okay. Just brew it as strong as you can. Can't go wrong with a fennel tea. And it'll actually help heartburn and reflux. So if you're prone to the upper GI as well as the lower, go to the fennel tea across the board. That's going to help the upper and the lower, and just everything that's going on with your GI tract. The fennel will make feel better. Okay, I've got a question from Nancy coming in. Nancy says she's up to 2 to 3 tablespoons of tummy fiber per day, and it took her a while to get up there, so that's good. She's still experiencing gas sometimes. Does it indicate she needs more tummy fiber or less, or that it's not the issue? She feels like a 24/7 lab experiment. Yes, sometimes we do, Nancy. I'm sorry about that. That can be common with IBS. There's a lot of trial and error and a lot of experimenting. I know, I'm sorry. You're doing it right with the tummy fiber if you gradually worked up to the 2 to 3 tablespoons a day. I would make that more consistent. You don't want to be fluctuating between 2 and 3. You want to have started on a low dose twice a day, gradually increase, continue to increase as you work your way up. I'm not sure if you're more prone to diarrhea or constipation, but the diarrhea folks usually stabilize somewhere in the ballpark of 1 to 2 tablespoons a day total. Constipation folks can work all the way up to 3, 4, even 5 tablespoons a day total. There's a range within there. For some diarrhea folks, they stabilize on a few teaspoons a day. Some of the constipation folks all the way up, maybe the 5, a handful even get past that to 6 tablespoons a day. So your goal is to gradually, consistently work up to the dose that resolves your symptoms, and then when you hit that point, you stay there. So you don't want to jump your dose up and down or go back and forth or skip doses. You want to be consistently giving your gut a dose of soluble fiber, keeping it in your gut 24/7, because it's going to force normal motility, it's going to regulate water content. So I would say if you're having still gas issues, Nancy, I would drop down to the 2 tablespoons per day consistently, stay there for several days, and then if you are still having the constipation, sounds like you're more to that side issue, continue to gradually increase. You shouldn't get any extra gas as you do that. That would mean you've jumped your dose too far too fast, so just hold steady until extra gas goes away, and then continue the gradual increase again until you reach the point where you feel stable, there is no more constipation, and then you just stay at whatever that dose ends up being, the 3 tablespoons perhaps a day total. Stay at that dose consistently, day in, day out. Let's see, Jewel is asking any tricks to getting the powder to dissolve without lumps. Again, that's really just it's a factor of the temperature of the liquid you're adding it to. It's going to dissolve fastest in room temperature liquids. It's going to dissolve fastest if you add the dry powder to an empty cup and then add your water and stir it as you're adding. If you want to add it to just plain liquids and not foods, if you want to dissolve it like you would cornstarch, where you add just enough water to liquefy it while you stir instead of dumping in a whole glass of water at once, that'll work a lot faster. And then if there's still little lumps when you're done, walk away for a few minutes, go do something else in the house, come back, and by that point, just maybe 1 or 2 minutes later, if you stir it again, all the lumps should disappear. Or just avoid it completely, and instead of adding the fiber to liquids, just add it to moist foods with breakfast and dinner. Okay, Sheila has asked a new question. Will you have fennel capsules someday? I would love to. I think it would be fantastic to have just fennel oil capsules for the people who have the pain, the bloating, and the gas, but they can't tolerate peppermint. Right now, there's really nothing that's standardized for that in existence, so it's something that would be difficult to create and bring to market with a lot of background work. I hope that we were able to do that someday. It's kind of a project in the background. Right now, I don't have an ETA for that, though. I'm so sorry. But that would be a great product for people with IBS. I'd love to have fennel oil capsules. Jewel says, I want to thank you for that last sale. You're welcome, Jewel. Thank you very much for being a customer, and I'm sorry that it's been so long since we've had a sale. It hasn't been deliberate. It's just been supply chain problems with COVID and trying to just make it through day to day. It's been impossible to try to have a sale on top of that. I hope we can get back on track with those and keep moving forward with more sales. We'll keep you posted. Oh, travel tips with IBS. I had a feeling we would get a lot of travel questions today. Yeah, traveling is hard. It's hard on the gut, even if you don't have IBS. Being out of your usual routine, being trapped somewhere in a car or a plane and being worried you're not going to be able to make it to a bathroom, the sleep disruptions, the changes to your schedule, the extra stress, even if it's happy and a vacation, it still all impacts your gut. I would plan ahead as far as you can. Do everything to take control before you even leave the house. So where are you going? Where can you eat when you get there? What kind of food are they going to have? What do you think your safe staples are going to be in this place? Is there a way that you can make sure you have a good sleep routine when you're there? If you have an established exercise routine, how are you going to keep that going when you're traveling? Just try to think about all this and plan it out and make sure that you're going to have a travel schedule and then also, a destination schedule that works for you once you get there. Are you going to be able to get enough sleep? Are you going to be able to get the food that you need? Take your supplements with you. Take your tummy fiber with you. Take your peppermint oil caps. Take your tea bags with you on the plane, in the car, whatever. Take everything that you need. Sometimes you might even want to literally travel with food if that's possible. Travel with some bananas, with little instant oatmeal packets that you could make with just hot water in your room while you're brewing your tea. Do everything you can to make yourself comfortable while you're traveling, comfortable when you get there. Let people around you know that you might need a little extra care and attention. Maybe you have to bow out of some early morning events because you need some sleep. Maybe they want to eat at a restaurant that just doesn't have any options for you, and that's not going to work for you. So don't be afraid to speak up and take charge so you can travel and have good results. And you can. It just is a little planning, a little information, but it can totally be done. Let's see, another question. What is most helpful for gas and bloating? Ooh. I think the fennel tea is the best direct hit for gas and bloating. That works fast, that works well, and it's something that's flexible. So you can use it however, whenever. If you're one of those people who just is prone to bloating no matter what from IBS, you might just want to make fennel tea a part of your daily staple and something you're just kind of drinking all day long every day to stay on top of bloating. Make sure you're not getting into things like carbonation, chewing gum, things like inulin, FOS, GOS, oligosaccharides. Those are all red flags you want to watch for on labels. They can cause horrible gas and bloating. And then there's some really helpful yoga poses that can deal with those as well that are on the site. Another question coming in. Okay, thanks for all your questions, guys. How do I know if I really have IBS? All right. So that sounds like it's an open-ended question and maybe you really don't know and it's a mystery diagnosis, and if they can't figure out what's going on, I guess you must have IBS. That's not at all how it should work. You should be able to get really a concrete diagnosis and feel confident that your symptoms fit within the criteria for IBS. So you want to make sure you start with a family doc or an internist or a GI doc. They're going to run tests. They'll start with blood work. That may be all they need. They may have to do some scope work to follow up. It's going to depend on you, your symptoms, your family history, your age. But they're basically going to want to rule out things that can mimic IBS but are not. Things like inflammatory bowel diseases, celiac, diverticulosis, diverticulitis, colon cancer. For women, there's OBGYN issues in play like ovarian cancer, endometriosis. So they're going to have to rule out everything that could cause the same symptoms as IBS. Make sure you don't have those. And then they also have to make sure that your symptoms fit what's called the Rome criteria. It's literally the diagnostic criteria for IBS. Your symptoms have to fit. And in a nutshell, the symptoms are lower abdominal pain or discomfort. It's a spectrum. It can be mild discomfort all the way up to pain so severe you black out from it. And that pain or discomfort below the belly button has to be in association with bowel dysfunction. So that can be diarrhea, constipation, flipping back and forth between the two, but it can't be just standalone pain, standalone diarrhea, standalone constipation. That doesn't fit the criteria for IBS. So lower abdominal pain or discomfort in association with diarrhea, constipation, or alternating. Bloating and gas are supporting symptoms. Vomiting is unusual but not unheard of, particularly if you get severe pain and nausea from that. So make sure you've seen a doc. You can't self-diagnose. Make sure they've ruled out everything that can mimic IBS, and make sure that your symptoms fit the Rome criteria. Simple question, but not a simple answer. Oh, another question coming in from Sheila. Let's see. I was wondering if your cookbook, Eating for IBS, has recipes for gluten and dairy-free and low citric acid people. All of the recipes that I would ever do for IBS would be inherently dairy-free because dairy is a huge trigger for people. So nothing's ever going to have dairy in there. The low citric acid, I have to say that one hasn't come up before. There's not normally a lot of citric acid in most of the recipes I can think of. You may have to exclude for something. You might have to cherry pick for that, Sheila, because the recipes are not going to be inherently avoiding things like citrus or vinegars. They're not key ingredients or anything, but those aren't typically, problems for people with IBS. And the recipes across the board would not be gluten-free. If you have gluten intolerance, that would be celiac, which is a different disorder. People can have celiac and IBS. You can also go gluten-free if you have IBS, but make sure that your gluten-free subs are IBS friendly. Just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's IBS safe. And gluten is not an IBS trigger across the board, so most people with IBS don't have to rule that out. If you do, you can certainly combine for that. The easiest way to do that would be to choose your soluble fiber staples that are inherently gluten-free, things like rice or rice noodles or potatoes, bananas, other root veggies. And then if you want to work with something like wheat flour in baking, Bob's Red Mill makes a really good one-to-one gluten-free flour substitute, and I would start with an IBS-friendly recipe and then make it gluten-free instead of starting with a gluten-free recipe. It's going to be harder to tweak those and make them IBS-friendly because they may inherently be very high fat. They can use some weird protein subs for the gluten, like chickpea flour or whey, which is a dairy protein. So start with the IBS-safe version of a recipe and then make it gluten-free. And if you need help, email us, we can help you with that. And let's see, we've got another question coming in here. I can find peppermint oil capsules at CVS. Yes, CVS does have the tummy hammers, but not the fiber. Any news on this? A little bit of news, but not certainly updated, because the last updates I've had from CVS is that they wanted to start carrying the tummy fiber in the travel packets. And that was sometime last May. They were asking for us, and they plan far in advance. It's a huge corporation, so it's a slow rollout when they add new products. They were looking for more information from us. They were projecting somewhere around this fall or winter, but I haven't had an update from them yet. So I don't know what their schedule is. Last I heard, they were planning on adding the tummy fiber travel packets, but I don't have a time or an ETA, and I don't know if their plans have changed. It's a little hard sometimes to get good feedback from CVS. Maybe once or twice a year they check in. If it does get added, we'd certainly let people know. We get a lot of requests for that, and it would be really nice to have the tummy fiber at a national chain like that, I know. So we're working on it. Let's see. Oh, this is an interesting question. Can I take the tummy fiber if I don't have IBS? What is it good for? Okay, yeah, you can. That comes up all the time. People are, using it for other reasons, or people want to make sure they can cook with it and other members of their family can have it, and is that safe? And yeah, the tummy fiber is literally nothing but an organic soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is good for you across the board, whether you have IBS or not. It's going to regulate bowel motility. It's going to have a prebiotic effect, which encourages the growth of healthy gut bacteria, which is good for everyone. Soluble fiber helps lower high cholesterol rates, so people use it for that, sometimes even to an extent that they replace statins. Soluble fiber helps regulate glycemic levels and the glucose levels in your blood, so diabetics and pre-diabetics use it to help balance their glycemic loads. A lot of folks use it for that end of things. They add in tummy fiber to each meal to help keep their glucose levels more stable. So yeah, it can only do good things for you. If you're new to it, I would still follow the process of adding it in gradually and working up your dose slowly and steadily. Whether you have IBS or not, you never want to suddenly drastically increase your fiber intake. That will give gas and bloating to everyone, and you don't want to do that. But other than that, yeah, anybody could use extra soluble fiber. It's just good for us all. Oh, Nancy's asking a question. Is lactose-free yogurt good for IBS? Is the gut-friendly bacteria beneficial? Yes and no, or actually no and yes. I would avoid dairy yogurt across the board, even if it's lactose-free. It's still dairy. It's still going to have the dairy fats and the casein in the way. But you can get non-dairy yogurts, a bunch of different varieties on the market that will have the gut-friendly bacteria, and that is beneficial. Those are your probiotics, the actual live bugs. That's a probiotic. Prebiotics are things that increase the short-chain fatty acids in your bowel in which the probiotics and the healthy bacteria thrive. So your prebiotics are good for your gut, your probiotics are good for your gut. I would just make sure that you get those in some kind of dairy-free form. And I need a little bit more peppermint tea. Let me know more questions. Oh, okay. got one here. Someone is asking about tips for having an active social life when you have IBS. That is totally possible. Don't feel like you can't leave the house, or you can't go out, you can't go to restaurants, you can't have a good time. This is an area where it's probably going to be easiest and happiest for you long term if you can talk to people a little bit. If you can let your friends and family know that you have IBS and that you need a little special care and consideration sometimes with social activities. You might need to have more of a say in a restaurant you're going to. You might not be able to drink the alcohol that other people are having. You might have to have an earlier bedtime. You might not tolerate a smoky bar. They're just things that you know are going to be hard on your gut. Share that with the people that you're socializing with. You know, if they're your friends and your family and your loved ones, they're going to care more about seeing you than the activities that you're doing. So I would speak up about that. Do what you have to proactively do to take care of yourself before you go out for a night. Do things like have your tummy fiber or take your peppermint cap. Bring some tea bags with you so you can just ask for hot water. Find out where you're going, what you're going to be doing, so you're not anxious about that. You know what the plans are for the evening. And maybe bring some of the socializing in-house if that's easier for you. Have people over to your home instead of going over to theirs. Do whatever you need to feel confident and comfortable socializing, and odds are pretty good you'll be okay with it. It's good for you too. It actually helps your gut to be out there and be happy and to have human contact and social relationships. It's good for your overall health. So don't let IBS isolate you and get you into depression and anxiety. That can be a vicious cycle. And tied to that, we have another question here. How can I control the anxiety that leads to my IBS flares? Yeah, anxiety and stress are huge triggers. They are right up there with foods. That's a tough one. You know, whatever is causing the anxiety in your life is what you got to get on top of. Extra sleep is a huge, huge benefit for reducing stress and worry. A regular exercise routine. It doesn't have to be something that's hardcore aerobic or, you know, a hot, sweaty, long, brutal workout. Just a gentle yoga practice. Going for a walk around the neighborhood. Going for a walk around the house if you're afraid to leave the house. Anything that gets you moving, that gets you breathing. Just raise your hands up over your head. Do some gentle stretches. If there's a hobby that makes you happy and relaxed, that distracts you, try to have a time every day where you can spend time doing that, reading or a craft, whatever works for you. If stress and anxiety are a huge trigger for you and you are really having trouble breaking that cycle, stress causing IBS, worrying about the stress, the worry itself then triggers IBS, you might want to look into gut-directed hypnotherapy. That's probably the best treatment approach for really breaking the anxiety and stress cycle that triggers IBS. And we have a follow-up question here from Jewel. What does alcohol do to IBS people? Well, it does the same thing it does to everybody else. We just feel it in much worse ways. Alcohol is a GI irritant. It literally can increase your risk of colon cancer, so it's certainly not going to be good for your gut. It can cause spasms and cramps. It can certainly cause diarrhea, depending on what else is in the alcohol. Other ingredients, it might be dairy, they might be high fat, maybe coffee, it may be carbonation. If you can avoid alcohol altogether, probably easier on your gut. If you want to have a little to drink, just from sort of feedback from people, white wine seems to be one of the most tolerable, a little better than red wine, probably better than hard liquor, probably better than beer because of the carbonation, better than mixed drinks, you don't know what else is in there. So maybe a little white wine might be okay with you once in a while. I still wouldn't have it on an empty stomach. Get some soluble fiber staples in there first, even have your dose of tummy fiber first before you have the alcohol. Yeah, it is a GI irritant. I'd be cautious with it. And let's see, a comment from Sheila. Just wanted to say thank you for your tummy fiber. It's been a life-changing, positive experience for me. Oh, thank you, Sheila. Thank you very much. I have to say it's been very life-changing for me too, so I'm glad I could share it. Oh my gosh, we have so many questions coming in. One about vitamins here. What can vitamins do? Can vitamins be helpful for IBS? Can some vitamins trigger IBS? Yes. The only vitamin that they have any information on that might possibly be helpful for IBS would be vitamin D. There's some interesting research on that a few years ago. It certainly doesn't look like it can hurt. Take it with food, like all your vitamins. more likely that some vitamins might upset your gut and set off IBS. Always take your vitamins with food. That's going to be a big one. Take your vitamins in the lowest dose that you need. Don't take a mega dose if you don't need that. Vitamin C in particular is a GI irritant, even if you don't have IBS. Megadoses of vitamin C can set off diarrhea, urgency, spasms, cramps, bloating, gas in everyone. So I would not load up on the vitamin C. Take just, the basic dose of it that you need. Calcium is constipating, magnesium is a laxative, so you may have to be careful with how you add those in. And then iron can be constipating as well. There's certain forms of iron that are non-constipating, so if you have to add iron, look for that. A lot of times prenatal vitamins can be more tolerated than regular versions. Don't use those if you are a man. They probably have too much iron. Check in with your doc. And sometimes liquid vitamins are better tolerated than the pills. If you really have trouble with vitamins and you have to take them, I would also check in with your pharmacist about that. They probably have recommendations for versions that are right on their shelf that are going to be the best tolerated for the gut. And again, for women, prenatal vitamins are usually formulated for that. Let's see. Joel is adding, she hasn't had alcohol for 40 years. It's really hard on her. I would believe that. Alcohol really is, it's hard on IBS for a lot of people. Best tips for IBS pain. The best tip is to try to head it off because it's always easiest to prevent IBS flares than to stop them once they start. So if you can work up your soluble fiber in your gut, keep it in there 24/7, that's going to keep your motility stable and prevent the spasms and cramps that cause the horrible pain in the first place. Do that with your diet as well. Make sure you're getting your soluble fiber foods. Be very, very careful with those trigger foods. Go low fat but not fat free. Watch your insoluble fiber. That can really set off spasms and cramps. If it's too late and you're hit with it and oh my God, you can't breathe, I think probably the most effective thing is super strong peppermint tea. You want to literally brew it black. If you can get some type of peppermint into your system as fast as possible, the moment you feel pain coming on, it can stop it in its tracks. If you're out and about, if you're alone in the house, you can't manage to even make a cup of tea, I would keep Altoids mints on hand. The little red and white tin of the Altoids original Curiously Strong peppermints. They are strong. They're made with real peppermint oil. If you are hit hard, start chewing those 2 at a time and just keep chewing them. You may have to chew 10 or 12 of them and it's not really pleasant, but it's okay. It's going to get peppermint oil into your system really fast. It's going to absorb through the mucous membranes in your mouth, get it into your system, start acting as an antispasmodic and stop the pain. So go to super strong, brew it black peppermint tea, start chewing your Altoids if you can't get to peppermint tea. And then a wild card here for people who live in medical marijuana states. For some of the people who get hit hard with the blinding pain that comes on really fast, they start vomiting, they black out from it, you might want to ask your doc about using medical marijuana for that. That can be something that can stop pain and spasms in its tracks. The THC aspect of medical marijuana is an antispasmodic. The CBD is more anti-inflammatory. So for the IBS folks and the spasmodic pain, something higher in THC may be a better hit for the pain. That's something to look into if you are one of those like, oh my God, I'm going to die from this pain people. Something to ask questions about. And it looks like we are heading into the last 5-10 minutes or so of our Q&A. It's a little bit hard for me to keep talking any longer than that. I'll start to lose my voice. But before we close, post your last minute questions so I can try to help as many of you as possible. I know we still got more questions coming in. Let's see. How is GERD related to IBS and ways to improve? Okay, GERD stands for gastroesophageal reflux disease, otherwise known as heartburn, acid reflux, kind of all related, all the same thing. IBS is different than GERD. IBS is, again, is a disorder. It's a motility disorder, whereas GERD, reflux, heartburn, those are not. And those are in your upper GI, your stomach and your esophagus, whereas IBS is your lower GI and your colon. But statistically, people who have IBS are actually more likely to have GERD and upper GI disorders than people who don't have IBS. So a lot of folks are trying to balance the two things. The good news here is that the same dietary changes, a lot of the same supplements work as well for helping the reflux side of things as the IBS side of things. So going low fat makes a big difference, avoiding the red meat and dairy, avoiding the alcohol, coffee across the board, even decaf. It's a huge GI irritant. It's not the caffeine, it's literally the coffee. Keep your soluble fiber up. That helps both sides of things. You may have to be extra careful with acidic foods, citrus, vinegar, chocolate maybe in all forms, even cocoa powder with the reflux side of things. And then another wild card here is if they have you on a reflux medication, one of the PPIs like Pepcid, those can cause all kinds of lower GI side effects. So you might be on a drug that helps your upper GI but is setting off your lower GI symptoms. So make sure you're talking to your doc and your pharmacist about that if that's the case. You don't want something that's going to help one side and make the other side worse. Let's see. Vicky is asking about dicyclamine for the spasms. That's a really old, which means safe drug. It's just an antispasmodic. It's kind of going to be like taking a peppermint oil cap, but it works through different mechanisms of action. So there's no harm with those. They've been around a long time. Their take is needed, which is nice. You normally take them maybe 15 minutes before you eat. They can help head off the pain, the spasms, the cramps. They tend to cause dry eyes, dry mouth, sometimes dizziness or fatigue as a side effect, so be aware of that. But in general, that's a really safe medication for IBS with a long track record, very commonly used for IBS. If you have a script for it, I would try it and see. Take them before pills and see if they help head off problems, or one first thing in the morning when you get up and see if it helps mornings be a better time for you. And then Nancy's asking, thoughts on using honey in tea? I seem to react to it. You might have a fructose intolerance, Nancy. Honey has more fructose in it than something like table sugar, which is straight sucrose. So normally honey is fine with IBS, especially because you're using it in smaller quantities. But if you react to honey across the board, I would follow up with your GI doc. There's a test for fructose intolerance. There's a wild card chance that you have fructose intolerance and not IBS, or you might have both, but that's something to follow up on for you for sure. And let's see, more comments coming in here. Getting ready to wrap up. Yeah, I want to thank everybody again for participating in the tummy fiber sale. I really appreciate that. And it's worth noting that the tummy fiber is really the foundation, I think, of the tummy care line and the foundation of what you could use as a supplement for IBS. It crosses over for just about everyone. There's not really anything it won't help in terms of gut motility and IBS symptoms. That's one thing that you can really add in, twice a day, day in, day out, forever, that can only help regulate your IBS for you. So I would rely on the tummy fiber. Don't be afraid of that or worried about it. If you want to add in something else, fennel and peppermint tea are certainly good, additions. Peppermint for pain, fennel for bloating and gas. Always remember to, key your products to your symptoms. So tummy fiber for diarrhea or constipation, or just forcing normal motility and helping global symptoms. P for peppermint, P for pain, fennel for the bloating and gas. Peppermint oil capsules are a concentrated form of peppermint. They're better as a preventative. Got to use them on an empty stomach to head off problems. Go to your teas, peppermint or fennel for immediate help when you can't wait, when you have a full stomach. So teas are very flexible. You may have to mix and match a variety of things and other supplements. Probably have to watch your diet as well. That's okay. It can take multiple, armors and weapons in your armory to address IBS. So add on all the different weapons that you need to attack it. That's okay. And you have to mix it up sometimes as your life kind of waxes and wanes and triggers come and go. That's okay too. You might need more help sometimes, be more stable at other times. So kind of key how you're treating yourself to how you're doing. That's okay. IBS, chronic but intermittent by definition, so your symptoms are going to come and go. Let's see. Okay, we're getting ready to wrap up. Let us know any last minute comments. I'd love some feedback on the events. Is this helpful? Do you have any suggestions, changes, additions? Always looking for rooms for improvement. We're kind of new to this. So anything that you think would help you more, let us know, and we'll try to work that into future events. I think we're good. Nancy, thank you for your kind comment. That's really sweet. Vicky too. All right, guys. I think we're wrapping up for the day. It was wonderful to see you. I hope you have happy holidays, and I hope I see you at our next event.